People's businesses succeed or fail because there's speed on that middle 50%, the maybes, the ones that are like either they have to negotiate or like it's just tight, like they're just not sure, they need to get more opinions, and the speed of how much you are making those decisions are going to make or break your business.
Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we help you unlock your potential freedom through land investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, we're discussing the 5 biggest mistakes land investors are making today. I'm your host, Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. And Ron, I wanted to start here because we're going into the new year, and I think a lot of these are going to be self-explanatory to people who have been in the game a long time, but there's a few sneaky ones here as well that a lot of you probably have not heard of. And some of them are going to be about volume, but there's so much more than that to the actual biggest mistakes people are making in the land industry. And I'm excited to get into this because I think there's some things that can really, really help land investors today.
Yeah, I mean, I would say most land investors, if not all, that follow us, if you're watching this, probably make one of these mistakes. Not that it's a huge mistake, but one that you can probably tweak a little bit to help your business grow in 2024. So I think this will be really, really beneficial.
I agree. Well, the first mistake I wanted to get into here is just one form of marketing, one form of generating leads.
Yeah. I think that is a huge, not a huge concern. Like, it is something that can grow your business. You can do $1 million a year with mail. You can do $2 million a year with mail, probably.
Absolutely.
But you can improve your efficiency of your business, of your marketing spend by adding second, third marketing channels. You were talking to someone this morning who's talking about they already implemented texting and mail, and they're trying to outsource some cold calling as well. So there is a ton of power, and I know you had a ton of optimism for what they were doing in their business in terms of that. So having multiple touch points, I think, is huge.
And that being said, that person this depends on your lifestyle too. Like if you have a job and you're busy and you don't have that much time, mail is obviously the best for that. You get the most qualified leads, and not that many leads, but they're very, very qualified that come in. And once you start texting, you get more diluted. And this specific person that I'm talking about does this full time.
Yep.
So I thought it was a good idea to potentially implement that. That being said, you don't want to take away from what's working, and you don't want to go to the second before you master the first either. So get your 1 in, get your 2 in, and then maybe 3 down the road. But really, like, I love the combination of I love the combination of texting and mail working together. And then you can implement dialing services, things like that down the road as well. But that's where I like to start is if you're not texting already, do some text follow-up. If you're not mailing, add some mailing to your game. Most people in our community do mail, but there's quite a few people now with the way we're teaching things that come in and only will be texting for their leads also.
For sure. And going on that, Dan, we said one form of marketing / inconsistency. If you are just doing one form of marketing, that's not a deal killer. Like, we're not saying go and force texting if you don't have the time to do that, because it is time intensive, but be consistent with your mail. This is 99.9% of the people who are doing this business struggle at some point throughout the year with consistency. Sending mail every 2 weeks is ideal to keep deal flow, to keep cash flow, to keep everything so you are not overwhelmed. If you send mail every 2 months and you send 10,000 every 2 months versus you send it for 2 months and you send 2,500 every 2 weeks for 2 months, the amount of work you're going to have is going to be far less, far more spread out if you're doing it bi-weekly opposed to just lump sending mail out every once in a while.
Yeah, you want to get this on a schedule for sure. We've been talking a lot about getting a mail schedule, getting the county that you selected, getting the acreages, getting the amount of data it is and the amount of mail it is, and getting that on an actual schedule. Whether you're going bi-weekly, the 15th and the 30th of every single month, or however you organize it, the most important thing isn't how you organize it, it's getting it on a consistent schedule. And that's one of the number one issues I see with people coming in. It's hard for them to stay consistent with mail. They send it, they get busy with deals, other things happen, whatever, and they don't send it again. And it just kind of gets sent out as they choose instead of choosing when to send it out and sticking to that schedule. And I think that's really, really important. It's not about the volume for a lot of people.
Yep.
It's about the consistency. And this business compounds on each other. So not only will this consistency trickle with your mail, it's going to trickle with your leads, it's going to trickle with your skills, it's going to trickle with you buying deals and just getting better at the business. Everything compounds in this. So the more you do it, the more you get on a schedule, you'll just build over time and it compounds.
For sure. So going from there, Dan, and this is the same thing, like, it's not necessarily about the volume. Doing this next thing is going to help a ton. And mistake number 2 is not negotiating enough. It is not negotiating with sellers, not being willing to negotiate, maybe not negotiating with buyers. Like, it is just not being a salesperson within the business. You do not have to be an A+ salesperson to make a ton of money in this business, but you need to be willing to have some of those tough conversations. And we see people all the time who lose deals because they're not willing to shoot that person $10,000 when you offered them $17,000 initially. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's not only negotiating, it's finding opportunities also. It's just being that A-player salesperson that you can turn into. It's a combination of scared to negotiate down, or just negotiate in general you don't like, or they have multiple properties and you got to be aggressive on the front lines there, or they have a property with a house. Let's negotiate, try to split their house off. They keep 10 acres. Let's split 5 off for us.
Problem solver.
Yeah, just a problem solver with that. And I think the whole, like, this negotiation is about just attacking deals and finding ways to get deals, whether you're negotiating down because something happened, or negotiating for another deal or another property you saw them have, like just being a great salesperson in general. And I always say you can go from a D- salesperson to an A salesperson. And I stick with that. I really, or maybe not an A, but a B at least, right? If A is kind of the top line, the best salespeople out there, you can get to a B+ easily and like be very efficient in sales. So if you guys aren't great at that, don't worry, because you can work back, get a mentor, just get the reps in. That's what it's about, is getting the reps in, listening back to yours and kind of thinking what you can do better, working with a mentor who's great in sales. There's so many people who are great in sales in our community. Network with one, get a mentor who you just specifically focus on getting deals with. Like, that's them. They're just a negotiator and you get help from them. Listen to calls with them, get their opinion, listen to some of their calls. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And you cannot push hard conversations back every single day. That's what I see a lot of people doing, is like pushing difficult things back. And if you're not a salesperson, if you don't like negotiating, like, that's going to be the last thing on your list. Get that stuff done. Like, check it off your list, have those conversations. It is a reps thing. I think more than anything, it's truly like getting reps in with it will improve your comfort with it. And that's what our brother Mike, like, he's a great example. He's an engineer by trade. He's a data person by trade. But he's turned into a B+ salesperson because his willingness to have the conversations.
Yeah, and he tried to outsource it too. He tried to find a partner. He tried to hire. He's done a lot of different things to try to outsource this as well, and it didn't work out as well as he'd like, whether that's a hiring skill or whatever. But he just came to the conclusion, I'm done trying to outsource this. I'm going to learn it myself and get really, really good at it. And he made that decision and then made some changes, and it was more of a mental change than anything. Because once you make that change and you want to be great at something, you just start looking at it differently. You treat every call differently. You treat it as a learning experience. You start really focusing in mentally on it, and that's a big part of it as well.
It's a skill. Like, it really is a skill, guys. It's not something, Hormozy says it a lot, like, pretty much everything is a skill that you can learn over time. No one comes out of the womb a salesperson, but over time, like, people develop the skill when they're in middle school, they're selling stuff, and you just develop over time. He
says, get Hormozy. I saw a tweet from him today, actually. He says, if you want to get confident with something, do it so many times that you get bored.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. Like, you do it so much, eventually you're going to get bored of it, but that's because you're getting bored because you feel comfortable.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Boredom comes with comfort almost.
That's a good example. I like that tweet. So going from there, Dan, we're going to go to using bad realtors. Realtors are people who can lock you up in a contract for 6 months, 9 months, not do their job, and they still have that, not equity in your property, but if the property sells during that contract, whether you sell it or they sell it, you have to pay them. Working with great realtors can help scale your business so much. Working with bad realtors can delay. I don't necessarily say it's going to put your business under, because you already got the equity by buying the property typically, but they can delay your success and really slow you down, in my opinion.
Yeah, working with realtors, it can take a whole part of your business away from you. You can completely outsource your disposition, and it can save you time for sure. But the problem is when you start to do it and you choose bad realtors and you're not vetting them properly, and they're just not, like, they won't answer calls if you choose the wrong one. They will not. They don't understand our business model. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see, is people don't relay. And it's on us when we do this. People don't relay our business model and what we're looking for to the realtor. So the realtor comes in and they're land realtors, and all they've seen before is every property they sell gets a survey and a perk test and this and that, right? And it's like, no, we want low contingency offers. We want to close this fast. We're looking at this as inventory. We want to move it as fast and efficient as possible. Yep. So the lower contingency, the better. And you got to relay these things over and over to the realtors, but that can hold you back significantly from time. And I'd say overall realtors will take a lot off your plate, right? You can completely outsource it. Like I said, outsource your disposition, but it also, I think, delays the time amount on the market. If you guys are, that's if you guys are listing it properly, assuming that you're going to do things right, answer your calls, list it properly. But when we outsource to a realtor, we notice that the time on market goes up. Yes, they help us with other things. We're not answering calls, doing all that. It takes some operations off our plate, not getting the offers together, all that stuff, Ron. But in general, the time on market extends a little bit, but the work goes down is how I kind of look at it.
The time on market extends, and then the buyer fallout greatly increases.
Good point.
Because these buyers are coming in with high contingency offers that the realtors try to sell to us and say, yeah, they're going to close. Yeah, this is going to work out. And then they fall through. So there are two things that both those things can greatly delay your business. You need to learn how to vet good ones. The key to one of the main things we do as a company when vetting realtors is how long is their response time to us before we sign a listing agreement. If I called them yesterday for a price opinion or saying I'm interested in having a property listed and they don't call me for 4 days, like I'm crossing them off my list. It takes too long to respond. However they respond to you is how they're going to respond at best to your buyers. So have people who are answering the phone is the bare minimum for a realtor.
Yeah, and that's why you want to call 10 to 15, see who calls you back quick, see who's going to go out to the property. That's another one. Make sure they go out to your property before you got to understand their intentions are to, just like most people in sales, their intention is to lock you up with the least amount of resistance as soon as possible, essentially. So they want to get you that contract and sign that 6-12 month contract or whatever it is with them as quick as possible. Because once they have that, you really can't back out. It's difficult. Tough. It's tough too. You got to go around them. They have to do something wrong. It takes work and so on. But that's what they want. So you want to counter it. Any other salesperson has to do work to get the business. Yep. Give them work. Have them comp it out. Have them go to the land. Have them send a few ground pictures there. Have them give you a legitimate estimate of what they think it's going to sell for and what amount of time. And use that with a grain of salt too, because that some realtors are really good at comping and a lot are really bad too. So don't be the person who takes what their realtor says with 100%, you know, because I've seen them wrong over and over again, constantly. It's all the time. But it's another data point. You know, you have your opinion, you have your mentor's opinion, you have Ron and I's opinion, you have whatever else you're looking at, and you kind of form these together to make its own. But I see that with using bad realtors too. These people just jump to their offer.
And going on that, like the best realtor we use isn't the best at comping, in my opinion. Like I go back all the time and I push back on his price opinions that he tells me, but that's because I know the area just as well, if not better. Not like an arrogant way. I just feel confident. I know how to look at comps and everything like that. But yeah, your realtor should be going to your land before you sign a contract with them. You need to have them put in upfront work, just like Dan said. Going from there, Dan, I think this is the most difficult one to outsource. It's slow decision making, taking too long to make decisions. What is like the number one decision people struggle with in terms of just making a decision?
Buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes or no? It's a pretty,
if they're buying it or not. And then that's how deals fall out too, though. That's where our value is with quick speed, right? And if you can't make a decision whether you're buying it or not, and it sits for a week or 2, 3 weeks, whatever, you'll have deals, you'll lose deals.
Yep.
And along with that, like, it's not always about making the right decision. It's about making a decision. So if you need to negotiate down, just make the decision, negotiate down if it makes you more comfortable. That's where people get stuck. It's when it's on the border and they're trying to push it through, even though they might be a little bit high or the land's a little bit risky. You got to make a decision and you want to negotiate down. And then if that doesn't work, you want to double close it or just make the decision and buy it. If you feel very good about it, use your deal funders, use Ron and I for help with this. This is, we still struggle with this. This is a very tough one, especially in certain areas.
So when we get purchase agreements back, probably 20% of them are like easy yeses. Like, let's send them title. Let's get them moving forward. Let's go as quick as possible. Obviously, do your due diligence, everything like that. Then you have 20% that are maybe 30% that are easy no's, that are like, there's no access. It's too wet, whatever the reason being. And then you have a middle 50%. I think people's businesses succeed or fail because there's speed on that middle 50%, the maybes, the ones that are like either they have to negotiate or like it's just tight, like they're just not sure, they need to get more opinions, and the speed of how much you are making those decisions are going to make or break your business. You will lose deals if you take a week to respond to these sellers, a week to negotiate. The faster you can negotiate with them. If I get a call right now, get a purchase agreement right now, and I call them back 2 hours later, like, I know we offered this, the property's a little wet, it doesn't have the road frontage I want, it's a little sloped, whatever the reason is, I'm there. I have a much better chance than if I go and wait a week and then call him back.
That's a good point.
And a lot of people do that.
It's the speed of everything too. Like if you're on the phone negotiating, get the purchase agreement. Don't, when the seller feels you're indecisive and don't know about the property, that's bad. I just like when you're on the phone, get the purchase agreement for what you offered and go back later. That's always my advice. And then like Ron said, there's 50% of the properties that are going to be tough to make that decision on, and use your resources as much as you can. Use Ron and I, bring them in the calls, bring them to your mentors, bring them in the LIO group, whatever you guys are doing, wherever you guys are coming from, you guys have a community. Use the community as much as possible, because the fact is you got to pull back the layers. Why aren't you comfortable buying this at that price, right? Oh, it's because of the slope. Well, let's hire a drone. Let's go figure out the slope, okay? Easy. Let's make a decision on that. Yep. Droner's going out there Wednesday afternoon. We'll have the pictures back, whatever the situation is, right? If it's because of price, well, let's get some other price opinions. Oh, okay, we got 2 price opinions. They both thought it was high too. Let's call back and negotiate down $8,000. And whether it's in a flood zone, let's get some opinions. Let's make sure it's not too wet. Like there's always a reason. Keep pulling back the layer. What is the reason? Then attack the reasons, then make a decision. You don't want to make a decision early when you don't know. That's the thing. Like if you think it's too sloped because of what you saw on Land ID, but you're not really sure, you don't want to just make that decision, negotiate down right away. Let's get a drone there. Let's look at Google Earth. Let's look at some other options. See, let's go on the ground view on Google Earth. Let's look at a few different more methods before we make that decision. Let's get someone else's opinion. And then you'll really start to feel confident in that, because now you don't only have your thought, you have someone else's thought, you got pictures, you have everything else to back it up. And then you can make a decision, but you got to be quick to it, right? You don't want to keep delaying it, wait a week and be like, oh, now I need to hire a drone.
Yep.
Make those decisions right now. What are the next steps? Put those in place and make the decision.
What's gonna help you make that decision? Like whatever is going to help you make that decision, make it happen. If you need to do some due diligence, get a person, get a realtor opinion, get our opinion, whatever it is, push to move that forward. Because we talk about so much, and leads are extremely expensive. Losing deals is extremely costly to a business. It can happen every once in a while, but if you're not quick, like you're going to lose quite a few deals over the time of a year.
Yeah.
We lose deals. Like we'll lose deals, not necessarily over speed or stuff like that, but if you don't make decisions on stuff, things fall through. Sellers find new buyers, everything like that.
These people are motivated.
Yeah.
I was talking this morning with a group on the coaching calls, and they were going back in their pipeline to find the hot deals. And this was, I think, a month, maybe 2-month-old deals, maybe not even that old. But they called 3 of them, and they were going to propose the double close because they just wanted a little too much money, or it was a little too risky, and they wanted to call back and get them because they thought there's meat on the bones. One of them they're going to get out of those 3, which is great because they didn't think that opportunity existed. One of them, hopefully they get. 2 of them already sold their property. That just shows how motivated these people are at the time. Happened with us too a few weeks ago. We had a bunch of deals sitting there in our CRM that haven't been touched. A couple of them fell through the cracks. I called one, very nice land in South Carolina. I was ready to go. Like it was a really nice lead. First thing she said is, oh, we listed that with a broker.
Yep.
If we would have contacted her prior, she hadn't listed that with a broker. She decided to sell it, make the next step. We could have taken that off her plate, essentially. These people are motivated. You got to be quick.
Absolutely. So going from there, Dan, the last one, and I know you're big on the future of this, is wholesaling the wrong way. A lot of people are trying to double close, trying to wholesale deals that are buy for $95, sell for $100,000. That's not the right way to do it, Dan.
And vice versa.
What?
Buy for 90, sell for 180.
Yep, exactly. Buy for 90, sell for 180. They're trying to wholesale that instead of getting deal funding. You want to touch on that a little bit?
So yeah, there's 2 different problems. We did a whole episode on this. So if you guys haven't heard our episode, Wholesaling the Wrong Way, from a week or 2 ago, go back and listen to that because I think there's really, really powerful. But there's 2 main reasons people make mistakes. They go from a seller, if you're doing our business model, a seller just asks for a number and then you go right to their number. Instead of trying to negotiate down, you're losing profit when you do this. These people are motivated. They're calling you for a reason. You don't need to go up to their number most of the time. You got to be very strong. Go back to number 1, I think it was, Ron. Negotiate. Use your negotiation skills. Get it as low as possible because you don't want to just go up to any amount and then try to double close it. And then your margins get slim. You lose a lot of profit. I see that go wrong way too many times. Other reason I see wholesaling go wrong is when people try to do it, force it on deals they can buy. On deals they can buy using deal funding. The spread's there. The margins are there. Buy for 100, sell for 200. You want to use deal funding. And the reason is because of the speed. We just talked so much about speed. You can get their money, get them out of the equation. When you're wholesaling, you're dealing with the seller. You're dealing with the buyer at the same time. You're dealing with a lot of different things moving, Ron. And the chances of things falling apart and title and this, someone backs out, the family gets involved, whatever it is, are high, are higher, probably triple, 3 to 4 times higher, I would imagine. And I'm making that up, but I feel like that's kind of accurate. So you're dealing with much, much higher probability of deals falling through when you could have just bought it in a week, 2 weeks using deal funding because the margins are there and got the seller out of the equation. Now all you got to worry about is go to the buyer. And we had someone, unfortunately, in the community make this mistake, but it's good. It's a learning experience for not only her, but for everyone. And she's going to get much more deals, but they tried to double close because I think they wanted all the profit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I don't know the reason, but they tried to double close for whatever reason. Instead of just buying it using deal funding money, they got a seller under contract. They got the attorney. In fact, they did everything right. And then they got the buyer. They were in title, ready to close, buy for 100, sell for 200, something like that, right?
210, 215, 215.
215. So numbers were great. Could have gotten deal funding in a heartbeat, but they jumped to that. And then eventually the seller lawyered up and won it out. Weeks later after they got under attorney. In fact, you would have already closed this by now if you're doing traditional. And that's one of the mistakes we want you guys to avoid. It's not a big deal when it happens, guys. It hurts. Of course, it's $100,000, but like you will get more of these. This opportunity is a greater learning experience than a detriment on your business, I think.
For sure. I mean, those are learning experience first. But if you keep doing that mistake and like, I don't want to say it's greedy, but it's just if you keep doing that, like these deals are, the longer it takes from when that seller signs that purchase agreement, two things. The longer it takes from when they sign that purchase agreement to when they get their money, better chance of it closing. And then the more things you need them to sign, the better chance of closing. They had to go get this notarized. They had to do all this stuff. Like if it's just that one purchase agreement they have to sign, and then they sign closing documents and get a check 2 weeks later. I remember one deal ever, honestly, of ours. We've done 1,000 deals. One deal that had fallen out like over that 2 week period where we moved fast, speed was good. These people don't fall out if you have money and you assure them. But then they read these documents that you have them sign with double closing, and then they get a little scared off, and things can happen. Like if they push back, maybe you can get some money out of them. Maybe you can cloud the title, but it's not going to be as simple as getting deal funding.
Yeah, and like there's ways to do it. I have wholesaler friends who do $1 to $5 million, sometimes even more, industrial buildings, right? And they're doing structures. And they just wholesale them, and they'll get them in a 24-month contract, but they lawyer up on their end, get legitimate contracts. They get them sometimes $10,000. I'm not saying give $10,000 earnest, but they'll do $10,000, $50,000 earnest a lot of times on these to really solidify it. Because when you go, if you were to go in court with something like this, you need more things than just the attorney in fact and the purchase agreement in place. You need a more specific purchase agreement with earnest money. Because once you put money down, your argument gets really, really strong. I have non-refundable earnest in the game that I put down to buy this. My intentions are to buy this within 90 days or whatever the time frame is. Then you can actually lawyer up in cloud titles and really get solidified. But it's when there's skin in the game, when there's that much margin in the game, you do want to do more things like that.
Yeah, I agree. And if you have, so if you have the margins, try to get deal funding, everything like that. Like that's the first. Don't force deal funding if the margins aren't there. If it's a buy for 150, sell for 220, it's a great double closing option. You're not going to get deal funding for that. But if it's a buy for whatever, 50,000, sell for $100,000, get deal funding. Double closing is going over time. Double closing is going to cost you more money trying to do those in those situations.
It's also more operations, but yeah,
100%. You're trying to combine two and do a lot at the same time. But other than that, Dan, I don't have much more to add.
So what were the 5?
So number 1 we had, and I got to remember this because our screen turned off. So number 1 we had one form of marketing and inconsistency. Number 2 we had negotiating or not negotiating enough. Number 3 we had using bad realtors. Number 4, we had, you have to remind me on this one, 4, we just talked about it, not making decisions fast enough. And number 5, we had wholesaling the wrong way. So we have those 5 mistakes, guys. Everyone listening, 95% of people listening are going to be making one of those mistakes. Try to fix it going into 2024. It is going to help grow your business.
Absolutely, guys. Well, as always, thank you for joining. If you don't mind, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps drive our mission forward. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.